Today, Brown County leaders are expected to take a final vote on a plan for the coal piles in downtown Green Bay. This follows months of negotiations on a preliminary deal between the county and Reiss, which owns the coal piles. Jason Zimmerman is live in Green Bay with a preview of what's being said so far. Jason.
Canby County Board Chair Patrick Buckley and County Executive Troy Streckenbach called for this meeting yesterday, saying the timing of tonight's vote is critical as they are up against the clock in being able to secure millions of dollars in state and federal grants needed to cover the cost of this project. Those coal piles are right behind me, as you can see, have been a source of debate for decades as community leaders have sought to redevelop this property site. At tonight's closed session meeting, supervisors will review the agreement and go over the contract line by line with attorneys present. As Action 2 News previously reported back in June, the coal piles will not be loaded up and moved. Instead, Brown County Board Chair Patrick Buckley has said the coal piles will be used up at the Mason Street location. And when the property is ready, the new product will go to the Fox River Terminal site, which Reiss owns. County Executive Streckenbach is confident supervisors will approve this deal.
And we're at a point where we feel very confident that what's been negotiated is very favorable, and we look forward to the vote because this really meets a major milestone for the development of the Polium site. It allows us to be in compliance with the state grant that we received.
State Representative David Steffen issuing a statement just a short time ago saying, quote, "I am hopeful that the Brown County Board will support the administration and negotiating team to ensure the coal pile relocation project can begin as soon as this spring. Relocation efforts have spanned decades, and this is a final necessary step to ensure that the redevelopment of the riverfront becomes reality," end quote. We'll be at tonight's meeting to cover that final vote and gather reaction. We'll have an update both online and at 10 o'clock. Reporting live in Green Bay, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.